cheese. You developed a style. I'm a soul man. Do 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 do. Hey, so are you happy? What is happiness? You know, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's what our Constitution says. You know what it said before they edited it? It said life, liberty, and the pursuit of financial gain, individual financial gain. And I put that in there because that Constitution was only there for the rich, white, property slave holding individuals like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Adams and yeah, all the other guys you don't even know who were at Philadelphia when they were writing the Constitution, which they wrote after the Revolution. So about 8 years or so before that, when Jefferson was spending a good deal of his energy on growing cannabis sativa and smoking it and turning it into brownies and gummies, who do you think got that stuff up? Right? And that's when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Right? You should go read that one. Right? And here, so here it is. You know, this is Memorial Day, Monday, right? You know, what's the date? It's May 27th, Monday, Memorial Day, right? And since Thomas Jefferson to this day, we have lost close to 70 million individuals laying down their life for the idea of our Constitution, right? But not really. They were mostly conscripted. You know, it was a thing called draft, and it's coming back, kids. It's coming back for you. You know, because very soon, like maybe by the 4th of July, we will have an intersection with some alien creatures, and we will have an Independence Day. Why do you think they made that movie? Because they're already out there. You know, when flying saucers, boy, that thing looked like a cigar when it zipped by. What was that? That was, they basically discovered zero point energy and gravomagnetic propulsion, right? How to not have gravity affect you, right? And so, you know, in Star Trek, they had that big antenna out front. That was kind of it. So, what was the one thing that we had a plethora of that, you know, could go into space? Submarines, because submarines, you locked them up, it had held its own pressure on the inside, and then it could dive way down deep in the water. Well, space is much more forgiving, except for maybe the radiation, um, than the sea is. So they had a plethora of these submarines, and they had all the juice they needed through zero point energy, and they put on the gravomagnetic units around the submarines, and whoop, zingo, off into the space they went, and that was called Solar Warden, right? Still is. Now we have the Space Force. So we have the and they've been out there for a long time, for probably at least 100 years, if not more, because there's historical references all the way back, right? So, um, you know, the question is, why do we need this?
That is jihadist-inspired extremists, domestic violent extremists, foreign terrorist organizations, and state-sponsored terrorist organizations all being elevated at one time. Since October 7th, though, that threat has gone to a whole nother level.
That was FBI Director Christopher Wray, and he said this just last month. The craziest part is, it's not the first time. He's been warning the government of an attack since the start of the year. This seems an important warning that hasn't gotten much public attention, because it's been a hectic month with Israel attacking Iran, then Iran attacking Israel, and then Israel attacking Iran again, all while protests and wars in the Middle East and around the world are only picking up. So who better to bring it to public attention, well, than yours truly? Let's start. Now, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know the threats from China far outweigh any other threats. Every U.S.
I just have to interject here. This year, the world spent on the order of $18 trillion on weapons of war, right? And of all that war, that's everybody. That's Israel, that's China, that's India, that's all of the EU, that's Russia, that's Ukraine, that's the United States, Canada, Mexico, everybody in South America, Australia, Japan, Korea, South Korea, everybody, right? Of that big pie, $18 trillion, give or take. The United States spent 75% of that pie, right? Russia spent around and this is why they're having a war, 6% of that pie, and China around 9%, and everybody else spent the other, 18, 20%. But the United States spent 75%, and we have been spending that since World War II. And we have had over 800 foreign interventions and wars, and that's why we have close to 70 million Americans that have died. That haven't died. I mean, they died in the Civil War here. And if you're going to say, the Spanish American War, you're going to say the Mexican War, that was part of America. But at the time of the war, it wasn't. So, and the only reason why France and Russia sold us those properties is because they were cash poor at the time. We had a lot of gold, and we were batshit crazy. The old Marines up on the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Well, Tripoli is Libya. Montezuma, I'm going to give that to you as a school project. Now, China is not a threat. It just isn't. Its whole economics isn't designed. Our economy is all based on war, right? So we have a very healthy war industry here, right? I mean, everything: our banking, our education, our media, everything you can think of. Then you add the military-industrial complex to that. That's America's economy. We really don't make toaster ovens anymore. So China does. China's biggest client of our stuff is us, right? And the worst thing that Donald Trump did was he, put all these taxes on Chinese goods coming in here, right? And so China, they don't buy that much from us, but they said, okay, good, you do that. We're going to put it on motorcycles and booze, right? And Donnie lost his cojones on that one. You hear that sound? Guess what that is? You know what that is? Sounds like dogs, maybe, but you're wrong. No. I'll give you a hint. It's got feathers. Right? So anyway, so here it is, our big Memorial Day. Is anyone, I was at church yesterday, all three of them, and they all they talked about was how we have to protect Israel from those scary people and those Palestinians. Oh, they're terrorists. We got to kill them all. I mean, this is three, not just the same flavor, right? Baptist, Methodist, Catholics. Paul was saying that. Was going on and on about, really. And I said, excuse me, you know, sorry, 30% of all Palestinians are Christians. So, we're always seeing threats because it's good for our business, right?
Outweigh any other threats. Every U.S. defense agency has a strategy to deal with China, from the Navy to the Marines. We've already covered about how the Navy plans to set up an island chain in partnership with our allies in case of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. If you want to learn more about that, then check it out in our video. But the FBI's job is to keep Americans safe here in the homeland. That could be from local threats here or foreign threats from outside. It could be a physical attack, a digital attack, or an economic attack, like the one that China was planning recently. Chinese hackers had taken control of hundreds of routers that related to critical infrastructure in the USA, relating to energy, transportation, water, and more.
And how did they get that? Well, back in the day, when I was at Cooper Union in our little department called Alternative Technologies, we were studying all the old stuff that guys like Tesla and there's two other really interesting guys, Farnsworthy. Somebody you should go look up. He invented TV. He invented loads of stuff. And a doctor, the black guy, who made everything from peanuts, right? Total peanuts, right? His two favorite things were peanuts and hemp, right? And he said those two things could save the world. He said we don't need to use hydrocarbon fuels, meaning wood, coal, gas, and oil. He said we could use hemp. Hemp makes great alcohol, and that would burn much cleaner because it's not a hydrocarbon. I know that's hard to believe. How can alcohol be not a hydrocarbon? But it's another another ester, right? And that means it's a zine. It's a octane, right? And that means it vaporizes, and within it has a hydrogen atom, not a carbon atom, hydrogen. Whereas oil and they have hydrogen atoms in it too, but they got the carbon mostly. So when that's burning, that hydrogen burns completely, and the carbon not so much. It's like you look at a diesel truck, and that big black thing comes out. That's all that carbon that didn't get burned. Now back at Cooper Union, we were broken up in study and research groups in the alternative technology department, and we were a little teeny thing out of the engineering department, right? And our only that whole semester, our teacher said, "I just want you to think of something that would make the world better." Period. This is 1967, right? Over its head this time. Nobody's thinking about sustainability. No. So anyway, but the oil companies kept saying, "Oh, oil is a resource that's it has a finite. We're going to come to the end of this someday, but that's why the price is going to go up because supply and demand, and well, that's not true. Oil is a synovial fluid of our planet. It is it's not from flowers and dead dinosaurs. No, sorry. It is the planet creates it, and it's like, there are all these gears down there in the planet, right? And all these layers of magma, right? And they all need lubrication, right? Otherwise, things get pretty crazy. If they all those different layers weren't being lubricated, we wouldn't get all our water doesn't come from the sky; it comes from the earth, right? We wouldn't have water, right? Two, we would have the planet would really, really, really get hot. Friction. Venus is just like Earth. It's like our twin, right? Why is its temperature like 900 degrees with a sulfuric atmosphere, right? What happened to it does have oceans, but they're not. What happened was, through some reason, that synovial fluid that was the lubricant of all those layers, just like we got, somehow dried up. And so the that force that's in that planet because of the sun and the gravity of things um, heated the planet up like woo. So this global warming, all of the above, it's just a manufactured motif. Not to say that things aren't getting warmer. Not to say weather's getting wacko. I mean, here I haven't really been around to talk to you guys for a while because I've it's been raining. I mean, the last 2 days we have had um, almost 20 inches of rain in really less than 2 days. Right? It really, I mean, it started raining, but from Wednesday until today, pretty much it would rain at night. Then it'd be rainy in the morning, and then it'd be sunny from around 11 to about now. Let's see, it's getting overcast. And then by 5 or 6, it would start to sprinkle, and then by 8, it'd be thunderstorms, right? So we had that every day since Wednesday, and but yesterday, the Baptist church, um, and we're really doing some great things with that church. And I just keep talking to people and getting them to change their mind, like the different deacons and they all thought I was Satan, but I talked to them individually, and this one guy teaches the elders. He's supposed to know something about Bible. No, not even close. And he's always quoting Billy Graham, right? And one day I said, buddy, you're just so hot to trot. You just want to come all over Billy Graham. You go, what are you doing? I said, Billy Graham was a friend of mine. What? I said, yes. Between 91 and 98, I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, when it was like stuck in amber. And I had this gig where I was the itinerant scholar, meaning I was a consultant on things, right? And people would call me up and said, "Hey, we want you to come and look at this." And I would go down to the actual airport, 25 and 17, 2-lane road, not even a county. I mean, yeah, county, not even a state road, a county road. Would wobble through town and get over towards that airport. And no one took there was 3 airplanes a day, one in the morning, one around 11, and one at 4 going out. And vice versa, there were 3 airplanes that came in. One about, the one that went out around 7. So the one coming in came in around 6. The one that went out around 11, anyway, so you get the picture. There was like 6 airplanes a day, right? And so I was not an early riser. I didn't have to, and I would always get to whatever my assignment was a day or two earlier. And I would say, listen, I need to be in a 5-star hotel. I need to have a car, preferably someone else driving. Like one of those. Not they have a driver, not an Uber because there weren't Ubers in the 90s. But they had these black LTDs with Bob driving the car, and it was a name for it. Anyway, so they don't have those anymore because rich people have chauffeurs, not just Bob. And they would take me to the hotel, and usually it was in a relatively urban center, and I would have you know Bob's little. I'm going to be there a week. I would have his little. They didn't have cell. Well, they did have cell phones, but not everyone had them. Just guys like Agent Mulder had them. But everyone pretty much had a pager, right? And so when I would get to that guy, he would give me a little pager, and he said, "Just hit that button there. It'll show you up and where you are, and I will text you and say I'll come and get you in 15 minutes or an hour or whatever." and then you can text back to me about okay, or I really got to go, or whatever, right? So anyway, so that's pretty much my modality, right? And I work for everybody. I worked at Brookings, CFR, Trilateral Commission, and everybody else you can imagine. And it usually, I'm a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist, and you need to use all those ologies to make any of them work. Psychology by itself, no, because it's a prejudice, meaning I'm a Freudian, I'm a Jungian, you know, it's not really looking at the picture, right? Sociologists, oh, I only look at the, socioeconomic blah, blah, blah. They don't take in case of the psycho stuff or the cultural stuff, right? Cultural, culturologist, who would they be? Historian, maybe. And then anthropology is this. It was a science, an ology that was set up by white rich men to prove that white rich men were superior. That's sociology. I know it's hard to believe, but that's what it was invented to do. They measured people's heads, and they were the white boy version of headhunters, right? And they would steal everything under the sun. That was the other job of sociologists, was to. There's a really good book. I was a headhunter for the corporate structure. Another book called None Dare Call Conspiracy by Gary Allen. The other one, I forgot his name. So I was kind of like that guy, but that guy had very specific thing. He was going to a place. He would go into a newly freed country. He would get buddy with the political structure was there. He would find out who was the most corruptible. Then he would get the bankers, the IMF and those guys, to pay him off, and that would be it. So, and that's why Africa is in such a mess, because once we, left as imperial forces and said, "Oh, hey, it's all your democracy. You can do whatever you want," you know. Zimbabwe, Tanzania, South Africa, that whole middle section that has all the really super duper yummy resources like oil and gold and rare earth elements. What do they call that place? Anyway, but you get the picture. Just go there. I mean, that country that broke up after it had been run by a despot for 30 years, and the people overthrew him. And then the army and the rapid force was there, and these guys were buddies. They were two generals of the same defense department, but one was like the militia, and the other was like the army, right? The rapid defense force and the army, right? The army had the tanks and the airplanes and the missiles, and these guys had artillery, light armor, and lots of guys running around with AK-47s. Well, they decided to have a little fight with each other, but they never really attacked each other. They would attack a county seat, and then the Air Force, the Army, would come in and bomb the town and kill all the citizens. And but because the rapid report, oh yeah, you're going to be bombing the town in 2 hours. Okay, thanks. And they'd get out, and the poor town would be leveled. Right. So very much what the IOF is doing to the strip. Right. So anyway, this militarism isn't anything new. Right. This global militarism is nothing new, and the world view that we have right now is nothing new. Rome, Mesopotamia, Babylon, and Israel. Israel has been a world power. I mean, how can that little teeny weeny thing be in the news all the friggin' time? Because it's this world view of hegemony, right? And it's not Israel hegemony or American hegemony or Russian hegemony or China hegemony. Those guys are all following the script. The war in Ukraine is a perfect example. Russia, it's the war of the two Vlads. Both those guys, the Vlad of the Russians and the Vlads of the Ukrainians, they both are Vlads, and they're both short guys. So they got real short guy complexes, right? And so they both, because Russia had over resources. They had a million guys under arms, right? They had like a zillion tanks. Yeah, most of them are old, but a zillion of them. And they had a ton of artillery, and on paper they look, you know, scary. But if a little country like Ukraine that had no anything could keep these guys at bay for almost 3 years now, and see, we never give the Ukrainians. I mean, if we gave the Ukrainians ATACMS and HIMARS, I mean, a lot of HIMARS, that would be it for Russia, you know. But we said, oh, we can't give them this because they could shoot into Russia by 60 miles. There's nothing there, you know. But they could take out all of Crimea, meaning get, you know, hit all the air bases, take out that bridge, take out the navy, take out. It's very interesting that part of the Ukraine, Crimea, has some of the best, um, farmland. It fed 1 million people there in Crimea. So, and all those people, see, that used to be like the Florida of Russia, you know, after they took it in 2014. And all of this stuff has been understood because, you know, Vlad, little teeny Pootie Pie, that boy, basically became the titular head of first the Soviet Union and then Russia in the 90s, right? He was a bagman for Yeltsin, the drunk, right? And so, and Yeltsin was the guy who destroyed the Soviet Union. Mikhail Gorbachev did all that wheeling dealing with, George, what's his name, Bush. Why do I say George, what's his name, Bush? Because George Bush, the alleged son of Prescott Bush, who allegedly was not really fond of vaginal areas, um, basically was a child of a Russian spy. Russian sent this engineer over on the boat to go work for Tesla, right? Now, if that guy stole everything, um, he'd get in trouble. But because his son, Curious George, that little monkey, oh, he's such a little monkey, that George. And there was always this guy with a big yellow hat, right? That was Prescott Bush, always wearing a hat. This stuff is interconnected, right? But nobody seems to. If you're out there fishing in the cesspool, you're going. So anyway, one thing the Baptist did that was kind of fun. There was another church on the other side of the county that has a big field to play baseball. Big. You can play anything in it, but they have a diamond and they have a thing over here where they got a great little grill, a little kitchen, outdoor kitchen, and a big thing that you can sit 200 people out on picnic tables and have a meal, right? So they didn't do the meal thing, but the whole church, about not the whole church, but all the parental members of the church, and that was about maybe 20 families and all their kids, and that was about 60 kids, went down there to play baseball. They played softball because some of those kids could play baseball really good, but softball they knew nothing about. So, and there were a couple of girls who were pretty good softball players, but there was only 4 of them. So, 2 teams, and so they played 8 games, right? And or two games, each 9 innings. But anyway, it was so much fun, and I, my crippled self, hobbled over. There was no seating, so someone lent me a folding chair, which was very nice of them, and I had an umbrella. It was sunny, like unbelievable sunny. The UV was 11, and I was saying, we should really go get some suntan lotion or something. But I brought myself an umbrella, so I'm sitting in the sun with an umbrella, and people like, look at that out. But everybody else was like getting heat stroke, and I had a couple. Everyone was drinking soda. I had maybe 4 or 6 packs of water. I got 2 or 3 of those and brought them over there and sat right behind home plate. And this guy, big guy, and he drove the bus, and he was the ump, and he did a great job because he didn't take it serious whatsoever, right? And this one guy, Charlie, and the other guy, Larry. Charlie was just having a good old time. Larry wanted to win. Charlie ate this guy's lunch because he said, because the two different times they just changed the kids all over the place, right? So it was never, only the good kids and the terrible kids. It was like a really great mix of everybody. And what truly was, and also grown-ups. I mean, the dads of those kids and the moms played too. It was great. This is being happy, and everyone was really happy. So I'm under my, but they're getting, just barbecued under that sun. But they don't care. They, and our holy guy of that church, he works outdoors. He's starting to look, you know, this woman came to get saved who's black, and she's as black as his hat, and he looked blacker than her, right? Like my glasses, because he's been in the sun. And boy, I said, buddy, you need this. I wouldn't wear, any of that faggot cream on my arm. No, it cause cancer. I said, no, I think think you should overthink that one. I think you're overthinking it. You should rethink it. Anyway, so but all of those guys who were in charge of that church thought I was like, you know, terrible person, blah 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 blah. But not so much after 2 years, because I've just talked to everybody in that church, everybody, kids included, about what it is, right? What happiness is. It's not that stuff. It's not having that big bus, not having that big fancy church or that big lawn or any of the things that get you think is going to make you happy. No, not really. Right? So, um, so and all in the Methodist Church too, because they were harder sell. The Catholics, they're pagans. I come from a Catholic background. Cardinal Cushing was my godfather. I was the designated hitter to be a priest in my family. Cardinal Cushing wanted me to be a rocket scientist for the Pope. I became a rocket scientist, but I became a rocket scientist for God. You know, God and I and Jesus and the Holy Spirit have been talking for years. I mean, since I was a little kid. I mean, since I can remember. Since and I can remember being in a crib in Mamo's crib with Emily. My twin black sister, who was 4 months older than I was. I can remember, an angel being right there, right? And it would be just looking at us and just smiling, just going, yeah, these two. So, oh, thunderstorm maybe? I don't know. But, the death road back there got washed out last night. You could hear, it was like a rushing river back there. I said, I don't know how much of that. But my little work on my road down there, other than my swells have become, gigantic, Grand Canyons, but it's taken 89% of all the water off the road instead of having a Grand Canyon going straight down the road and doing this. That's the worst thing. This is a very steep road. It's about 40 degrees. So I just walked up it. It's about, 3/4 from, between a mile and 3/4, half a mile, depending on how winded I get, do I think it is. Walking up this one wasn't, and all that rain actually kind of flattened, mellowed out the ruddy bits that were there, by at least 70%. So there's four big swells but the way I designed them, if you, I said to everyone, listen, this is how it's going to work. I'm making these what are known as crowns, meaning in the road when you have a crown coming up to the top. Well, I have a crown here, so if you just put your tires on the two edges of the crown, it's as flat as a super highway. Everything else is like this, and there's these four big swells that take most of the road up. So if you drive in the swell, yeah, it's about that deep, right? Because that water's been digging it out down to the stone, not the rock stone. I mean, the big rocks, And no one's going to give me any help getting large. And this is perfect right now. Someone would have pick. I don't even have a truck anymore. I used to have my friend's beater pickup truck. and I would go. There's a place over on the highway that's going to collapse into the highway and end that highway, and that'll be fun. The rich people won't be able to get to their houses then. But I know the back roads, right? And they're scared to go on those back roads. So, but this place is really turning into one heck of a tourist trap slash jumping ground for laundered money. And that is why all the people die in wars. Yes, it is. Well, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. I haven't said this. It's 39 minutes into 39. It's how many minutes? Yeah, 36 into the show. And how much juice do we have left on the old thing? We got about maybe 40 minutes. Well, I am gonna. Oh, it's sunny again. See, every time you get sun like this, after it was cloudy, what that does is like really, juices up the cloud to rain. Like, I mean, like I said, we've had 20 inches of rain in less than a day. So, and our lake, it is starting to go above where if that lake comes up, I don't know why they're not emptying it, or maybe they are, and it's just so much water, it's not making a difference. But um, our county road is about 20 feet at the highest, maybe 10 feet at the lowest above the lake. That lake comes up, that road will be flooded. And if it does do that, that that road will be like my road, meaning the water will be going over that road, not just laying on top of it, but moving down the hill at a pretty good clip. So if it ever gets up there, and the developing guys have so destroyed those roads with their big, gigantic tractor trailers of stuff and these gigantic flatbeds that they put a gigantic earth moving equipment on. At those things really, because I rode behind one and I could see it pressing the road down towards the lake, right? And I went and talked to the DOT people, and I said, "What about this?" And they said, "Well, we got our eye on it." I said, "Good, that's nice, but it's going to destroy the road." Well, we got our eye on it. I said, "So why don't you just put a little sign at the top saying, don't no large trucks on this road?" Well, we wanted to do that, but the governor and the state legislature and the chamber of commerce and the county commissioner all said couldn't do that. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. A lot of envelopes going out there every week. They're getting their envelope. And that's your town too, kids. Every single town. That's why your water, boy, look at that water. I remember when it was really nice, just turn on that faucet and it came out clear and clear as still. And you drank it, and boy, that was cold and tasty. And yeah, I like it. But now I turn that thing on and it's brown. It's got gunk in it. It smells. And when Ethel went to light a cigarette when I was holding a glass, it caught fire. You know, Go ask the people in Arkansas and Tennessee and West Virginia and that nice little town there in Palestine, Pennsylvania. Go talk to them. There's an accident like that every single day on railroads here, and always every once a month. I-95 just got destroyed by a tractor trailer with industrial chemicals and a gasoline truck. They just kind of smashed into each other. No one knows why. And that other place, there was a whole field of tires down there, and right underneath that cul-de-sac, and the homeless people were down there, and we've arrested them. They started a fire, and it just burned and burned and burned. It took out the whole highway, and oh, and that big ship smashed into the bridge. They threw down that anchor to stop it, but just not in time. But if they didn't throw that anchor down, the boat would have gone out, not under power, but at least going out there. And it did have tugboats carrying it up to the bridge. By rules, by whoever says that those boats supposed to carry it on the other side. That's when they disconnect. When they get on the other side, but as soon as they made that big turn, they disconnected and let the boat go up on its own power. With 10 minutes, the power failed, and they could have in that time gone and got that boat and put ropes on it and stopped it in its place, but they didn't. They just let it go because the lights were flickering. Oh, no big deal. It'll get going. And a big puff of black smoke out of the thing. Oh, doesn't that mean that this engine just had a misfire? Ooh. But we didn't care. Oh, look, they're throwing out the hook. They'll stop just in the nick of time. No, look what's happening. The boat is being towed right towards that main pillar. Boom. Boom, chakalaka, laka, boom, la, da la da, da la da. Hey, hey, hey. See you see the rising. Yes, I just kind of get all fervored up on holidays like this one. Right? But I'm telling you, that Independence Day. That's what we're gonna have this 4th of July. Hey, hey, hey.
Luckily, security agencies were able to catch it before any real damage was done. Otherwise, results might have been pretty catastrophic.
Oops.
The goal of the CCP is simple, but the methods to achieve it are wide-ranging. The CCP wants to steal or stop America's economic development in areas that matter for the future. This means they are not just targeting government and military targets.
Oh, doesn't that sound like propaganda? Yep. That's what we're doing to them, right? But we're all on. I mean, like I said, you know who owns all of the U.S. Treasury notes? The thing that keeps paying our debt is the Chinese. They own all our Treasury notes, right, or a good number of them. And Japan learned how well that worked out.
And I would argue that true happiness is much more than that. And we can talk about that. It's meaning and purpose and flourishing. In fact, as Miriam probably knows, a lot of the research in positive psychology, the science of happiness, is moving in that direction, away from this just pleasurable feelings toward a flourishing, meaningful life.
We're talking about happiness and the apparent happiness gap in the U.S., especially among young people.
Ooh, there's a happiness gap. I'm sure it's caused by the Chinese and the Russians and the Palestinians. They're causing the happiness gap. They are. We have to watch out for this. We have to get ready with missiles. We have to be able to nuclear, strategic nuclear attack on the happiness gap. Whoops. Hey, hey, hey.
Someone so clearly isn't presidential material.
Yes.
It just looks like a money laundering operation.
Oh, it's really true. Well, the other thing about her, they want a woman in there, and they don't have a really good field of women in the Democratic Party. So,
the Republicans got a great. They got really great women.
And with all the incredible, they've been trying to do a lot of things to pump up her profile. I've noticed that. I've noticed the Gavin Newsom thing. He's, of course, the guy who said he was going to call martial law against his own citizens. Masonic duties into the Theosophical Society and brought forward so much influence on FDR that we're going to see a whole occult puzzle piece fall into place.
Yes, all our founding fathers, they weren't Christian. What is the First Amendment in the Constitution? The Congress will make no law to have a state religion. You've heard that term, separation of church and state. That's the First Amendment, not freedom of speech. That First Amendment of having no state church gave us the ability to have free speech, because it goes on that People will be allowed to gather and speak of whatever they want to in their church, right? You can have any kind of church you want. The most holy rutabaga, the sacred doorknob, any religion you want, you can have in America, which is really kind of a great thing. Again, not something our founding fathers really gave too much thought about, but they wrote that first one because they were all Masons. And back, Holy Roman Empire, man, if you were, that's what happened to the Teutonic Knights. They were a Masonic lodge that was kind of married to the Catholic Church because the Pope gave a papal bull saying that if you go out there fighting for Jesus, you can rape, steal, and pillage anything and anybody you want as long as they're not white and they're not Christian, right? Or Catholics, Catholics first, But see, that's what happened at Antioch. That's what we had. Constantine, went from like a light switch from the Roman Empire to the Holy Roman Empire, and that was one of the little problems. And Saint Augusta, he's the boy who brought in original. There was no original sin until Augusta, right? Saint Augusta, and that's like the 4th century, 400 years into Christianity, right? And the whole thing of in the Bible, that last comic book story about the end of times, that didn't appear there until John wrote it, and that was about the 3rd or 4th, like 200 or 300 years after Paul was when we got that section of the comic book, right? And that thing where everyone's supposed to, that the first 200,000 lucky winners will be turned into jello and sucked up to heaven. What was that called? When people go missing, that didn't show up until 1830. It wasn't in the Bible. There was, Moses didn't write that one. Go do your homework on your Bible. I love people who go blah 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 about the Bible and don't know squat about it. Meaning me, I'm just your chucklehead griot here to tell you a story. These are all stories for your entertainment. Don't believe a word I say. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. No one's watching, but I do have one thumbs up. Thank you, AI. And guys, in the corporate world, I'm ready to go back to work. I'm working on these 18 novels, and I think are very sellable, right? They are better than what Paul was the Don Draper of the Bible, right? He was the madman, right? He was the salesman, right? He could sell anything, right? So anyway, come on, get a hold of me at the dudeawake42 at Gmail. And I give this out and I get so much spam. I mean, people want me to buy all kinds. They know I'm old. Here's some rutabaga ointment for your little boy, that little Johnson, that little unit between your legs. You want to be, you can't even masturbate anymore. This will do it for you. This and these magazines. And it'll be brought to you by the Church of the Rutabaga, right? Holy smoke. Holy rutabaga. Praise rutabaga. You know what I mean? Man. You know what I mean? Man. So you having fun yet? This is supposed to be a conversation, a live chat, right? Live streaming, Where are you guys? You're out there playing baseball. I hope you are. If you're out there having fun, right? If you're being happy, what makes me happy? I'll tell you what makes me happy. When I talk to God, when I praise Jesus, when I give all the glory, right? And not just like Johnny, but praise God, praise Jesus, praise God, praise Jesus. No. A little deeper than that. Let's talking about our boy. Let's go see who he is. Let's talk to him about happiness. He's the gendarmes of happiness. I can't even see. Let's see. this J? No. How did I get up there? Where's J? John Boy. H-I-J. Here we go. There we go. I think this is him. What? I should be able to get anything up here. This is right in the Zoom line. Nope. Well, I guess the Chinese have attacked. So that whole thing about attacking our infrastructure, right? Well, do you remember when the oil price went through the roof, right? You know what it cost Mobil, Shell, BP, any of those seven sisters, you know what it cost to get the oil from the well in Saudi Arabia to the dock in California or to the dock in New Jersey? You know what it cost? 35 cents a 55-gallon drum, right? A barrel of oil, right? That's how they that's the benchmark, right? Benchmark crude. And the supply and demand. Oh, well, the Arabs cut off. No, the Arabs did not cut the oil. Charge of it. The Europeans, those oil companies own all of and all the little Qatars and Qatars and all the, and anybody who didn't go along, like Iraq and good old Libya, who say, we don't want to take dollars for our oil anymore. We want gold dinars. They were gone. And both those countries, Iraq and Syria, Iraq, and Libya, were all countries that were all right. I mean, a lot better. They all had health care for their people, education, house, food. I mean, right now, the health care I have is, really bad, right? It was fair until the COVID, and it destroyed it. COVID whacked virtually anybody who was good at their job in healthcare left after COVID. That was it. They got nothing for it. They got sick all the time. People were getting mad at them, and so the people who were left were the snake oil salesmen. So I got this guy who's Turner, and when I know more about medicine than he does, it's like, and all I really need, he wants me to have open heart surgery. I'll be dead. All I really need is a pair of shoes. No, he won't give me. No, I can't. You don't have this. You don't have that. I mean, just because I took, I'm very disciplined about my diet, and you know, so I keep my blood sugar in really good order, but I still have diabetes. And what it did to my endocrine system is still what it did to my endocrine system, and the same thing with my blood pressure and my cholesterol. Because I'm very disciplined, I keep my blood pressure between 118 and 130. Except when I see him, it kind of goes up around 140 because he is so friggin' annoying. I mean, he comes in this really nice, like I think he went to a tailor to get his white coat. It's definitely not off the rack from the closet. He doesn't wear scrubs. Everybody wears scrubs. He wears a suit, white shirt, starch, that tie, these linen pants, and the shoes that they're Italian leather. They probably cost $200 or $300, right? He comes in. This is after his nurse has taken all the information, talked to me about everything, put it on the computer, and he comes in with his little laptop, because she has a tablet. Everyone in that medical center has tablets. He has a laptop, and he'll be there. I remember one time he was there, and he's pushing a button, and I would hear Yahoo, Yahoo. I mean, he was like playing candy corn, right? And he doesn't listen to anything. When I ask him a question, he goes, "Oh, I don't have time to answer that. Don't you need to have open heart surgery?" No, I don't. He sent me to get these, things, and I said, I want the data on, if I'm going to have heart surgery, I need to understand the sonic images. I need to see the stress test. I need to, and they gave me a nuclear, and I put an isotope in my arm, right? And and put me in a thing that kind of was reading me, and they won't give me any of the information, but they charge me $500. Right? Well, I don't have $500, so good luck with that. I don't own anything. Good luck with that. I don't need anything. Good luck with that. So the only thing, so what that did was gave me an opportunity. God just keep like I'm getting, my blood pressure is going up just talking about this because he wants, my legs were a mess, and I said, take a look at my feet, and the nurse, she put on her gloves and took my shoes off and did. She goes, look at this, doctor, and he didn't put it. He didn't wash his hands. He didn't put gloves on. He just kind of poked around at my toes and go, oh yeah, what? And I have all these scars from all of the diabetic incidents I had. And she goes, hey, look, he has diabetes. Look at all the scars. Uh huh. And so she puts it in there. Anyway, and that's medicine today. Right? Now, God right now is saying, listen, stop even talking about this Yahoo. That's, it is what it is. And I got your back. And God does. So I go, okay, you're right. But it does get my goat. I have a little bit of Aries in me. It does get my goat. So, but God says, don't worry. It's in your life, so you can exercise your unconditional forgiveness, your unconditional love, your unconditional understanding, and by doing that, I mean, how do you think you got to weigh? You think you did all of this? You think you lost that 300 pounds? You think you kept your legs because of what you did? Do you think, you didn't keel over, and need your all your organs taken out and replaced with machines? You think you did that? And I go, yeah, I know you did that. I'm just out there. Swing, batter, swing, swing. Right? So at the baseball game, I'm sitting behind, and so there's the guy and he's more being a stand-up comedian. So I play into what he's doing as the ref, ump, ump. I say, hey, ump, and so I'm sitting there, and the little kids would come by. Can you read my palm? And other people go. So why do they call you Al Bob? Is that your real name? And I said, well, that's the name I was bestowed with. What's that mean? I said, well, that's not my slave name. What's that mean? I said, do you know what your birth certificate means? Well, it shows that I was born. I said, oh, well, kind of. What it shows is that you're owned. What? I said, where do big ships come when they come into the harbor? They go to the berth. And when they go there, the guy in charge of the harbor master, comes and gives them a birth certificate. Because as long as that boat is in that harbor, in that berth, the harbor master is in charge. The people who run admiralty law own the ship, the crew. And that's why the crew, like when that boat smashed into the bridge, those poor guys couldn't get off the boat because they didn't have the birth certificate that they did have when the boat was over. If they kept the boat there, they'd still have the birth certificate. But they didn't have it. Kind of getting the drift. You ever go into a courtroom or a church or a municipal building and you see two American flags? There's a good old, red, white, and blue, and then this red, white, and blue with a gold fringe around it. What does that mean? That means that municipality is owned, controlled by admiralty law. And who owns and controls admiralty law? Well, the poster boy of that is a guy named Mr. Rothschild. And so basically, Mr. Rothschild put Nixon. Why do you think LBJ, out of the blue said, I will not run. I will not take if everyone in the Democratic Party tries to get me to be president, I won't do it. Right? Because Mr. Rothschild said. So they put in her, whatever that guy's name was, the vice president, Humphrey, but he looked like Hoover, and so and they ran him against Tricky Dick, and Tricky Dick is a good politician, smart guy. He had he's been hanging out in California, right? So taking lessons from Ronald Reagan. So he should have, because of dirty tricks. Um, they call him Tricky Dick because everyone did the dirty deed to him, right? So he gets in power, and because of Mr. Rothschild, and so in '72, after he gets the win again, um, he wouldn't have unless he said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Rothschild." And what he did was he traded all our gold, which was like our economic bedrock, for equity, right? And what was the equity? It was all the citizens of the United States. So when you driving around America and you go into a little town, you say, incorporated village, incorporated city, incorporated town, right? And you go into county seat, incorporated county, right? Go to the state capital, incorporated state. They're all corporations, and they're all, minor entities underneath a large corporate entity that is the Admiralty, fringed American flag. And all those kids who died, all 70 plus million that have died for Old Glory, have died for the bankers. Now, no one wants to hear this. They want me to tell you great stories about, the old crone and Jimi Hendrix and all. But I'm telling these stories because of all those young men. When I tried to stay away from my draft board during the Vietnam War, and I didn't burn my draft card, do anything illegal. I was just never there. Meaning, the United States is a big place. You go hide in plain sight, like New York City, hard to find you. 17 million people. Each little neighborhood's like a separate country. So, and then when they were getting close, because I had a lot of couches I could hang out on, right? I was couch surfing. So I left, and I had a lot of friends, in college, and I went and visit them, and I had a herringbone sports jacket and a nice shirt and a nice pair of pants, nice shoes, well trimmed. And when I was in these colleges, people thought I was either a professor or a student, right? And I didn't quite look like I looked in those FBI photos. So um, you know, and they would. I don't know why they were so desperate to find me to draft me, but anyway, so for a good almost 2 years, I was all over the place, right? And I had a great time, and so I have plenty of stories to tell about that, but that's for another time. And this show is about happiness. So this is the new. I had a big thing of the big splat. About 3 years, 4 or 5 years. I've been doing this show now for almost 7 years. Right? I have definitely around 2,000 shows. So anyway, when I got back, I kind of cruised back into New York, and the draft board kept sending my parents, but I hadn't seen them in like 3 years. So um, I kind of went and touched base with them. My mom gave me a stack of letters like this, and then she handed me a piece. She said, "Sign that," and she took it. So she goes, "Now you've received all of those." I said, "What?" They said, "Yeah, they came and talked to me each one of those people bothered me and said, 'Where is your son? We want to. He has to go see his draft board,' because we're desperate for folk. They actually wanted a guy like me. So, or at least they thought they did. So I said, okay. So I wasn't staying with them, but I said, fine. So I kind of looked through them. They all had the same address, show up at this place. And so, I said, fine. So I took, I put them in a little folder. Went off to get online over at where the draft board was. Was it Water Street or some street? Anyway, so I went there and I go, line, boom, 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 get to, there's the sergeant. And I'm looking down the hallway and those guys are standing in their underpants. And I said, well, I'm next. And he's like, looks at all these things and he then opens up a folder and looks at it. Oh, yeah, Sergeant Larry upstairs on the 7th floor wants to see you. You mean I'm not going to get in my underpants? Oh, no, they want to talk to you upstairs. Put everything back. He goes, here you go. So, and he writes down Sergeant Larry, room, 720. Go up there. There's, and actually his door was open, right, on the hallway. There was no waiting room, not many people went to see Sergeant Larry, but his door was open. Knock, knock, knock. He goes, yes. And I said, the guy down at the table downstairs had to give you this. So he, oh, and then he gets his little folder. He goes, oh, yes. Just wait a minute. He walks into this other room, comes back with his gigantic, box. Boom, right? And look into it, and it's like files on me. He was here, and we couldn't find him. He was there, and we couldn't. It was like, where is Waldo? And he goes, hand me all that thing you got. And told me, yep, that's it. And he's checking this thing off. He goes, okay, sit down. And I sit down. And he goes, Al, it's very interesting. We have spent almost a fortune trying to find you, to draft you into the army and send you up to Vietnam or Germany. But, that box right there shows what a really interesting and, you have a character that most people don't have. So we don't think we can trust you in the army. I said, really? He goes, yes, we don't want to give you a gun. I said, that's right. I come back here and shoot you. And he goes, that's what I mean. And so, but we have another offer for you. I go, what's that? He goes, do you want to do alternative service? Now, I've been trying to sign my up for that since I was 16. I did all this kind of stuff. I worked in orphanages, and when I was in the local 3 IBEW, they were quite a social entity at one time, and so they had a lot of social things, and none of those guys volunteered. I did, because I wanted to use it. See, I did this. I worked with these kids and those things. Worked with Boys Athletic League and took kids to Camp Orenda up there near upstate New York. Anyway, so he goes, "Yep, you can join alternative service." Yep, and I said, "Yeah, sign me up. I'm all." He goes, "But if you got drafted, you get 2 years, right? And about a year of that is in training, and then 1 year at service wherever we send you." Right? I said, "Yep, this 6 years. You get paid, but 6 years, and there's you get educated too. There's stuff that will probably train you and educate you, and it'll be interesting." And I said, sounds great to me. And he goes, okay, sign this paper. I signed it. He goes, okay, go down to the federal building and look for office, blah, blah, blah. And that's a place called, very new thing, LBJ started, called Volunteers in Service to America. But I don't think it was called that then. It might have been, but I don't think so. I think that was more Jimmy Carter thing. Maybe not. Who knows? But that's what it was. Whether it was called that or not called that, it was volunteers, because it's not called Volunteers in Service to America anymore. It's called something else. Still there. So anyway, so I went down to them, and they didn't have my. And when I was saying that, Sarge, can I take this box? This would make a great. That's ours. We're holding on to that. So how about a copy of a few of that stuff? That's pretty. That would look good on a resume. Get out. Okay. The only piece of paper I got was saying that he doesn't have to get drafted. His service to the government, to the military, has been superseded by his service to the country and this. So I go down to federal building. I go to the office that's on the paper. Knock, 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 and I say, "Hey, here I am." And he looks at, "Oh, so I just have a little bit of what it says that you've been working in theaters and you're an artist and you've been socially conscious. It's a letter from Bishop, Cardinal Cushing, and so um, so you're Vista, and so would you like to teach? I said, yeah, that sounds fun. What age kids? She goes, oh, between second grade and seventh grade. I said, oh, okay. So that sounds like a plan. Down in Alabama. I said, okay. I'd never been to Alabama. I've been to North Carolina. I've been to South Carolina. I've been to West Virginia and Virginia, but never down to Alabama. And so I went down to Alabama, just off Interstate 75, kind of near, not quite down into Bayou country, but oh man, was it ever dank. We were on a river. It looked like straight out of Forrest Gump, where his house was, right? And it was cotton as far as you could see it. And so, I went to where they sent me to, and that was this, I can't remember the county. And there was no city either. So I went to this place and wasn't in the county building per se. There was a kind of federal building. It was, it was like that neck of the woods of that state's big centralized post office, right? It wasn't just your neighborhood post office, but it was a big thing. And in it, they had, the DOT, federal DOT, the guys who do the census, a bunch of things. And they had a Vista office there. And the guy said, oh, yeah, we heard, yep, we've been expecting you. He goes, so do you have a driver's license? I said, no, man, I grew up in New York City. He said, do you know how to drive a car? I said, not really. He goes, well, okay. What we're going to do, we're going to put you in this little place, and it's basically Little Red Schoolhouse, right? And it runs from kindergarten to seventh grade. I said, okay. How many kids? He said, oh, about 100. Okay. Anybody else going to be there with me? Oh, yeah, there are a couple of people. There's a kind of a principal and a kind of a nurse and a kind of a one of our Vista, social worker type people, and you. And there's two other teachers. I said, okay. So went down there, and all those people were black except me. Even the Vista person was black except me. So I was definitely white, but I grew up in Harlem, so I'm African American. That's melanin challenged, and so let's see how much time. I don't want this thing to crash. Yeah, I got another 10, 15 minutes for this story. So I basically okay, where am I going to stay? And they took me out to like where the outhouse was, and it was a little log cabin, and they said, well, that used to be the school. And I mean little log cabin. And so I went over there, but it was really nice. I mean, it was a nice little log cabin, right? And because they had toilets in there, so they had a septic tank, so this thing actually had a toilet, actually had electricity, right? Which most of that part of the county didn't have, right? And so I was, oh, no, this is nice. And it had electricity, but nothing worked, right? So I said, well, that's very nice. Where is, and I had, come on the bus and I had a couple pair of pants and a couple of shirts and another pair of sneakers and some socks, a jacket, and I had my tools, my hand tools, right? And I said, where's he, and they said, where's what? I said, well, I'm an electrician. That place has no, nothing works in there, but it does have wires and lights and switches. And they go, you can fix that stuff? I said, yeah. I said, well, so they basically take me out. The wire is there, hits the building, goes down. There's a meter, and basically, um, goes into where there's a Frankenstein knife switch, plug fuse kind of thing. I said, oh, look at this. Take out my little tester and go, guys, you have no electricity either. And they go, that's right. I said, shouldn't you? Well, the county said they'll send somebody. When did you ask them about it? Oh, about 15 years ago. Nobody showed up. No. I said, okay. So I went out there, and first off, the meter's there, really ancient meter, and there's no lock on it, right? So that's the first good step. And I just unplug it, and there's like animals living in there, right? And so I test the current, on the line side of the meter plug, and there's no juice there either. So I kind of look up there. The wire goes over there. There's a transformer over there, and my eyes used to be pretty good. So I kind of go over there, take out my little, I have a little, pirate telescope, and I'm looking up there, and sure enough, the fuse up there on the hot side of the 9,000 volt, what is known as a farmer line, right? So I say, okay, hey, you guys got a ladder? Get up there. Oh yeah, we got a ladder. Get up there. I go get a ladder, put it up there, and I kind of put it in the ground, tie it onto the pole, so this thing's really sturdy. I said, okay, stand back. And I said, wow, what? Well, hold the ladder. I said, you don't need to. I kind of tied it up. And if something goes wrong, I don't want you to get electrocuted. That's 9,000 volts, I'm sure. So, and I have my little megger, which is like one of the ancient tools I had from Grandpa Stahl. Tells you about the EMF field. So I go up there and I have my gloves, I had my hand tools, right, for anything needed, right? Just got this little, my hand tools. So I go up there and basically I take a good look at it, and I said to the guys before I went up there, I said, you got any jumper cables? And the guy said, yeah, we got jumper cables. So the easiest thing to do was to forget the fuse, put it on the little squiggly wire comes from the farmer line, and it hits this kind of fuse thing that you can pull out and put in, but they're big, right? And so then on the other side goes down into the transformer. So I put, and then there's the neutral up there, and so I put the jumper cable on the neutral and the jumper cable on the hot of before the fuse on the thing, and then but I've already clipped it on the transformer. So like I'm doing this, the hot one. I just got my rubber gloves on. Oh, nothing happens, and the transformer starts to hum. I said, "Oh, look at that!" So I check with my wiggy. Yep, perfect. Right. I go down to the meter. Oh, look at that juice. Then I basically plug the meter back. Well, I first have opened up the Frankenstein distribution panel and the things, and I checked out for any dead shorts and marked those off. But pretty much there was only one or two, and the line that went out to my little cabin there that didn't have a dead short. So, and I had already it had a little distribution in there, and so I kind of unscrewed the fuses. Anyway, so light that thing up, and then boom, 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 some lights start lighting up, and you hear motors kind of gurgling, and and so I check everything out, and it was about a week or two before the kids were going to show up. So, and once I lit that thing up, right, it was like, and so basically I went down the line to all the houses that were within a 7 mile, about 20 houses that were on this line. I mean, the rest of the house didn't even have the pole there, didn't have the farmer wire, and I basically and these people, I said, "Have you been paying your electric bill?" Yeah. I said, "But you haven't had any electricity." Well, they said if we didn't, we'd never get it. So I said, "Okay, everybody's paying, nobody's stealing, This is all good. So I lightened them up. So man, once I did that, I was the dude of this little community, right? And you know, and so I was no longer a strange white guy because I was the only white guy. There was no even the master one living there or there. And these guys had jobs in like the lumber mill and a few other mills in a large cotton mill they were working in. So those guys were like, whoa. So this one guy said, you don't have a car. I said, that's right, sir. And he goes, well, I got a beater. You know, I got a truck you can drive. And it's got farmer plates on it. What's farmer plates mean? Well, out here, unless you're a rich person and have an expensive car, everyone has farmer plates. That means you just get them and they don't bother you, right? As long as you're the farmer plate has the county you're in and the state you're in, and you're in that state and that county, the cops don't bother you, right? So I go, okay, that sounds fun. Thank you. So it was like a ancient car, like 1940 something, which not, that was 1960, 69, heading towards 70. It was the fall of 69, so, it was 40. So it's only a 20-year-old car. I mean, the beater I was driving that I'm not driving now because it doesn't want to work, my God Mobile, it was, at least 20 years old. So anyway, same range. But definitely didn't look like a 1969 car. It looked like a 1940. So real different. But nice kind of pickup truck. I was in great shape and better than my buddy's beater. So I had wheels, and I basically, so I got everyone's electricity working. I got the school. And all those people who their kids were coming, they all came virtually every evening and on the weekends. And the Baptist minister, they'd have a church. So I said, why don't we just let them, we have kind of what is that room called? A big room. They had a big room and it had a basketball hoop on it, so you could play basketball there. But it was like, it had kind of a stage. And it kind of had a kitchen over to the side. So it was a kind of room, but it was a pretty big room. You could easily stick 200 people in there, and it had these two big doors that went out into this big field, and you could play anything on. They had a diamond without any backstop or anything, but big field. I had to think. I mean, the only reason I had a diamond because kids have been running around and playing baseball for the last 100 years. So anyway, and that was really great. Those 2 weeks were really frigging great because I did all that electric work within the first 4 days. I got everything, bing on. And the other thing I did was I called up the utility company, or I didn't call them up. The head person at that school the principal took me in, and she had taught. She had taught in. I mean, she had gotten that place because she was brilliant, gone to school, had more education than anybody in that whole county, and yet she was the most diplomatic person I ever frigging saw. And so she had everyone's respect. Even the Ku Klux Klan loved this lady. I mean, she was a midwife. She delivered virtually everybody. They have a doctor or a hospital or a Band-Aid stand in this county, right? So it wasn't all black people. It was probably more white poor people, right? And there wasn't even, there were the guys who owned the factories, they didn't live there, right? They kind of, drove in. And there was a county road, nice, coming from Biloxi or Alabama. What town was there? Let's go to Google. Let's see. Map of Alabama. Well, they have the two. I mean, like, can you even see any of? I mean, that's why I don't remember everything. You can't even see it, right? Okay, we'll try. We'll go in differently. List of county names in Alabama.
U.S. counties frequently mentioned on the web include Fayette County, Washington County, Clay County, and others.
67 more. It's kind of near Clay. Let's see if they have a map. No, they don't. Who says this stuff is list of? Anyway, so this is now. This is not back then. So it was near Clay County. Right? Wasn't Clay County, but near Clay County. That was a bigger county. The county I was in was like, I mean, no one even knew that name of that county. Anyway, so and go look on a map and see Clay County, and then draw a circle around it 30 miles out. It's somewhere in there, right? So anyway, so that electric work, getting that school lit up and those houses lit up, 4 days. That's all it took, right? And that lady drove me around and introduced me to everybody as I was, right? She had a truck, And when I did that, that's when the guy said, "Hey, you need a vehicle?" I said, "Yes." So I got that because he had a truck farm and he had no electricity, but he was paying the electric bill, right? So he could then, and so I did that. So for the 4 or 5 months I was there, meaning I kept, and I like started stringing power out in other neighborhoods, off of trees. And because I went, by the fourth day, I went with the principal to the utility company. And I said, "Listen," and they were a TVA county, um, you know, publicly owned utility, which aren't anymore. Mr. Rothschild owns all the utilities, gas, electric, you name it. Rothschild owns in America. Anyway, like in California, all those good majority of the fires in the last 15 years in California have been started by utility lines, and they have never been sued. At least, never had to pay for anything. They've been sued a lot, but anyway. So I so she took me to utility. I basically talked to the head engineer and said what I was going to do, and he goes, "Ah," and he said, So what they did do, which was quite nice of them, they sent. So once you get in that truck over there, and that's one of our. It didn't have a bucket, but what it did have was all these boxes with insulators and big rolls of wire, and so I could take it. So I said, "There are no poles, but I'm going to put them on trees." He goes, "Well, you seem to know what." He said, "You did line work?" I said, "Yeah, I know all about. Not all. Yes, I'm very accustomed to high voltage. But in cities, New York City, Con Edison. That's what kind of experience. Anyway, so but out there in Queens and those other boroughs, they have poles, so I know about poles. But we have these things called bucket. Yeah, we don't have any of those. So anyway, he had ladders too. So once I started stringing the wire all over the place, he says, "Well, you seem to know what you're doing. Do it, along the roads, you know, in a sensible way, so we can come at our own leisure and put some poles in there and take care of that." I said, "Not a problem." I said, "You know, why don't you come out and let's lay it out together?" Right? He goes, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So he gets in the truck. This other boy gets into another pickup truck, and we go out there and we kind of, figure it out. And he said, "Well, we are, that means these." I said, "I'm just going to wire these folks up, and you guys, at your leisure, come and put the poles in, and then with your leisure, put drops into their houses. I'm just going to, do it with the stuff you got here." And so they said fireworks or someone shooting their gun. Anyway, so I did that. So by the time school opened, 2 or 3 weeks later, I had about 40 people with electricity, mostly farmers. I mean, that's what I was heading for because they if they had electricity, they could increase their productivity productivity by probably 100%. With pumps and getting their wells to really work and all that kind of stuff. Because they had like a lot of those farms had electricity. They had these things called wind jammers. You know, wind powered, and that company's still in biz and does a great job with that. Anyway, so by the time school opened up, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 3 weeks, a month, school opens up. Like in September, and most of everyone's harvested everything, so the kids come for school. Might have even been October, and so it was great. I mean, I was like part of the family. I had eaten all those farmers I gave electricity to. I was like their best son, because I said, I'm really African American. That's no, that, I grew up there and had all these people. My the mama who fed me was black, and I was in a crib with my black sister, who is still my black sister, and so and I knew the jargon, I knew the logo, I could dance, I could sing, I could, and so anyway, it was great. I was having a great old time, and because this place was so far out in the middle of nowhere that there weren't, and the white people were thought of worse, by the white, whatever you want to call those people. Um, those they would think of those white people as worse than black, right? Because white people that I dealt with, the black folk were their buds, their neighbors, their brothers, their sisters, right? There was everyone shared. The amazing thing why I'm going down this road on this story is because they were happy. No one had any anxiety about anything. They had zip. When you hear about, oh yeah, poverty's great. You're a lot happier when you're poor. Not in our world today, right? But in that world, yes, because of all these grandmas who knew more about medicine than the doctor who was trying to take care of me these days. So anyway, um, so everything was hunky dory, and I, got all this going, and I got a nice place to live in. The school is now really, it's a place you'd want to be into because it was kind of dark without electricity. It was kind of dark, and it had water, so the kitchen actually worked. They had an electric stove instead of a gas stove, like 1940s electric stove, like 9 burners, 2 ovens. They had a lot of good stuff, but nothing worked because they didn't have electricity. They had a kind of big walk-in refrigerator that had the refrigerator. I knew how to fix those things, and as soon as I energized it, it actually kind of worked. So people were bringing their dairy products because it was a big thing, and keeping them there so they could sell them, right? So I looked into pasteurization. So did the principal, and there was 4 or 5 folk amongst these maybe 100 families, these 100 kids, and there was 200 kids that really could use educating, right? So, and not just from kindergarten to 7th grade, but kindergarten to about 20, right? So we got all these people in there studying, and everyone's having a great time, and and so this baseball game we had yesterday reminded me of it because the parents of the kids played baseball on the same teams as the kids, and the kids went from like high school age down to kindergarten. There were some kindergartners who could hit that softball better than half of the people and could run, and they just didn't stop running. I mean, other people were like, "Oh, should I go? Should I not?" These kids just run. Right? Oh, that's the kind of people that were in our school, and so we were doing just a freaking amazing job. So we increased the education quantum for that neck of the woods. Like in 4 months, everyone's reading. The minister is like everyone's going to church because he now has that big kind of whatever room was the church, and it was just taking freaking off. And everyone was really getting into collectivism. Not everyone had a car. I mean, a good third of everyone had a truck or a car, but not everyone. So the guys who went off to the mills and stuff, got other people a job because people needed, and so these guys couldn't, they couldn't get a job because they couldn't read, couldn't talk, couldn't interact, were scared of white people. But within 4 months, we got half the people who could earn a good living at these jobs, got them in those jobs. And those people who own those factories, ran those facilities, really, really liked it. And they were telling their legislator, we have other factories, other places. You should get there. So by the fourth month I was there, we were really amazingly taken off like a rocket ship, right? And then all of a sudden, these feds showed up and said, "Okay, you're through here." And everyone was like, "What? What? You're not taking our owl? No, over my dead body." And they were like black and white guys who were going to school together, and the state legislature. I mean, they were all down for the factory guys saying this is good for business, but they didn't lack the fact that now those stupid white people were getting educated too, and that they were, because they were together all this time. Now they're going off into factories and not being racist in these factories. And so I had to go. So that was interesting. I was there for maybe 5 months. And it was really great. I was one of my happiest times because I had want for nothing, nothing. I remember I was playing baseball, and you know, and I got, the ball was like, and I'm not the greatest, but it broke two of my fingers. Right, the lady came out, the one who's the best, kind of doctor. She came out, she kind of felt my fingers, right? She, muscle tested me. Later on, I would learn about muscle testing, and she put my finger in a splint. Took both of them in a splint, and said, And she mobilized, and she goes, you're very lucky. There were clean breaks. You didn't break a joint. You didn't break. Your fingers are quite complicated, and it could have been worse. You just broke the bone right there, and so you're fine. Just keep spinning on for about a month. You'll be fine. And she made these poultices. She goes, let's take that. And she had the aluminum splint with the little rubbery thing, not stick. She had the real deal. And she taped it up and showed me how to do it. And she gave me this big mason jar of this green stuff, and then she had this other bottle, not quite as big as a mason jar, you could knock back. She goes, drink this every night, and put this goo on in the morning. Put that thing on, and she gave me a glove. She goes, first 2 weeks, this glove, keep the glove on, right? If you hit it or bang it, it'll hit the glove, and then the glove will protect the. This smart lady. Anyway, within 3 weeks, took it off. It was like I can play the piano, and so I was loving that place. I was ready to. This is my home right now. There wasn't any, because all the really great women there were married and had 4 kids, right? And but everybody loved me, right? And I had no want for anything, right? I didn't have to. I didn't worry about cash or money or my paycheck or none of the above. And I did get a paycheck from the Vista lady, and I said, "Isn't there what do you what kind of bank or?" He said, "Well, why don't you put it in the Federal Credit Union?" I said, "Federal Credit Union, oh, sure." Right. So I think it was her pocket, just get signing the checks, and you need cash. And I never needed more than $20. She gave me like $40. My paycheck was, I think, $75 a week, which was way more than anybody, because it was actually coming from the federal government, and I was a GS whatever, and so and the lady who was the Vista lady, she really didn't work for the federal government. She worked for the county, but they were going to get a Vista person, and the state said no. I think it'd be better, all around if one of our people did it, and the federal government said fine. So I think the federal government. So I was getting $75. I'm sure that lady should have been getting like maybe $200 because she was an administrator and did a lot of stuff. And I don't know what she got paid, but I got that check. And she was the one. Anyway, she was the one. The Vista lady took care of my check, right? I said, "Do you get one of these?" She goes, "No, I get paid by the county." And when she said it was kind of anyway, I signed it over to her. I think she just put it into her bank account and would give me 20, $40 or whatever I needed, right? She said, "You need more?" He said, "You need anything, just come to me." I said, "No, I can just hand you $100, but anything more than that take a little more time." So anyway, I mean, she had a lot of things going on. So anyway, after 4 or 5 months, the feds came and said, "Okay, Al, you're done here." I said, "What? No, no, I want to stay here." He said, "No, you're we own you for 6 years, so you come in with us. We got something else for you to do." I said, "What? You're going back home? What? Where? New York City? What? Yeah, you're going to go work at the VA in Brooklyn." That's how I got that job. I said, "How much juice do I have left? Can I?" No, no, we're down to the point. So that was my little 5 months in Alabama, and I don't think I would want to go back there now. But then it was like heaven. I was I've been very happy my whole life, and it comes in little chunks. And so I have happiness, and then not misery so much, but you know, catastrophe. Like I die, or when AIDS was a real problem, and AIDS started out being a problem when I was in the VA in the '60s, meaning that was going on then. And that's a whole nother story, kids. You had to come back and hear that one. So the new series is Are You Happy? Right? And I'm expecting the next time I take the effort to walk a mile up here to talk to you that we've had the power out now 4 or 5 times in the last couple of days. So anyway, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed the show. I love you dearly. I always pray for you, and that's when I'm my happiest is when I'm praying, not when I'm thinking about guys like that doctor and blah blah blah. That I don't my legs hurt because I don't have the right orthopedic shoes. They don't want to give them to me. Right? So it's as God keeps telling me, this is just a thing to show that you don't have to worry about anything. You can walk on glass and be fine because I got your back. That's true happiness right there. I love you guys.